I hope I'm not too late to share this. A friend of mine works at a medical office in Amish country, Pennsylvania. They once had an Amish couple visit because the wife wasn't able to conceive. After running several tests that showed normal results, they handed the husband a container and requested a semen sample. He returned with the cup filled with urine. It turned out he had been urinating inside his wife, believing that was the way to get her pregnant. During a trip to the ER to have a painful ingrown toenail removed, I was crying, gagging, and absolutely terrified. My doctor, however, knew just how to put me at ease. "Relax," he said reassuringly. "I just watched a tutorial on how to do this on YouTube." While leaning in to examine her eyes, one of my older patients got a bit flirtatious. "You remind me of my third husband," she remarked playfully. "Third husband?" I asked curiously. "How many have you had?" With a sly smile, she replied, "2. A woman had a gynecologist appointment one afternoon. Before heading out, she decided to use a bit of feminine deodorant spray for good measure. At her appointment, she got into the stirrups for her pelvic exam. The doctor glanced briefly and commented, "Well, someone's fancy today." She suddenly realized she hadn't used the deodorant spray after all. She had mistakenly grabbed her daughter's glitter hairspray. After having my wisdom teeth removed, I apparently bolted upright, pointed at the doctor, and shouted, "Fraud! Return my teeth at once! They belong to me, and I alone decide their fate." My dad later said he couldn't stop laughing because I refused to leave without them. When I woke up at home and saw my teeth in a plastic bag on the table, I asked him why they were there. He explained everything, and for the rest of the night, he jokingly called me Lord Molar. I'm a dental hygienist, not a doctor, but I've had my share of bizarre situations. I once had to explain to a 40-year-old woman that scrubbing her teeth with Comet Cleaner wasn't an acceptable method for cleaning them. On another occasion, I had to tell someone that painting her teeth with white nail polish was a terrible idea. A 25-year-old woman in active labor came in, insisting she couldn't possibly be pregnant. She explained that her last menstrual cycle had been about 10 months ago, which she assumed meant she had entered menopause. I had a patient come in for an STD test, extremely upset because she claimed to have only one partner. During the exam, she revealed that even if her partner had been with others, it shouldn't matter because he always uses a condom and washes it carefully after every use. Confused, I asked what she meant by washes it. She clarified that her partner cleaned the condom with hot water and soap before reusing it. While working as an anesthesia student during my clinical rotations, I had an older gentleman wake up from surgery. The first thing he asked was, "Do I still have my balls?" I replied, "Yes, both of them." His response, "Both! You guys are amazing!" I was visiting a urologist in a hospital when there were several power outages. The lights went out briefly and the backup generators kicked in. As he was finishing the exam, mid-sentence, the lights went out again. He stood up and left to check on the situation. 15 minutes later, I was still sitting on the bed, trousers around my ankles, and everything exposed. A nurse happened to walk by the open door, did a comedic double take, and asked, "Do you have an appointment?" It turned out the doctor had already finished the exam and returned to the ward about 15 minutes earlier. From the nurse's perspective, I was just some random guy who had walked in, dropped his pants, and left the door wide open. Not too long ago, I treated an 11-year-old boy in the ER. I gave him ketamine to reduce a fracture, which essentially meant resetting and splinting a broken bone. As the medication wore off, he started rambling nonsensically, as many patients do. Suddenly, he seemed to snap back to awareness and declared, "I'm so freaking lit! When I grow up, I'm gonna do so many drugs." His parents found it hilarious and adorable. but I'm fairly certain I unintentionally created a future problem. A woman came in for a checkup with her 6-month-old baby. I noticed the bottle she brought along appeared to have chocolate milk in it. I gently began explaining that it wasn't a good idea to give chocolate milk to such a young baby. Before I could finish, she interrupted me and said, "Oh, that's not chocolate milk, it's coffee. He just loves it." I asked a female dementia patient if she could tell me what year it was. She responded, "Oh my goodness, that's far too private to discuss in polite company. A respectable young lady like you shouldn't concern herself with such things." I decided not to mention that I'm not a lady. If she hadn't noticed my beard, she likely wouldn't grasp the explanation either. While my friend was in dental school, he performed an extraction on an adult male with several severely decayed teeth, a term we call bombed out. After finishing the procedure and giving post-op instructions, the man earnestly asked, "So when will my new teeth start growing in?" He was completely serious. As a surgeon, I once performed a procedure on varicose veins for a very refined middle-aged woman with an upper-class accent. The anesthetic we use sometimes caused patients to experience brief hallucinations while going under or waking up, often leading to amusing moments. While the woman was in recovery, we waited for her to gag slightly on the breathing tube to signal it was time to remove it. She gagged, we removed the tube, and she loudly exclaimed in her elegant voice, "That's the best bit of cock I've had in years." The entire recovery room erupted with laughter. Fortunately, she didn't remember a thing. An older woman was brought into the emergency department by her husband, barely conscious. In a heavy Italian accent, she told the doctor she believed she was dying. Before fainting, she had complained of tingling sensations and a dry mouth. Her husband explained her medical history, which revealed no serious health issues, and that she was very active for her age. She had spent the morning cleaning her son's bar, as she often did on Sundays. Due to her symptoms and age, the medical team ran extensive tests. When her son arrived, he mentioned passing by his bar on the way and discovering she had helped herself to some leftover treats from the night before. It turned out the treats were space cakes, and she had eaten quite a few. The son had to explain this to the doctor and his father. They then had to tell the elderly woman she wasn't dying, but was, in fact, very stoned. Thankfully, she was still high enough to find the humor in it. I visited the doctor for an anal issue. During the exam, he inserted his finger to check if everything was fine. I let out a small noise, and he asked if I was okay. Instead of responding, "That's okay," I accidentally said, "That's nice." I'm not a doctor, but my graduate school human sexuality professor shared some memorable stories. He often worked with highly conservative Christian communities where couples frequently married without any sex education. One such couple sought therapy because neither enjoyed sex or had ever experienced an orgasm. After discussing their bedroom activities step by step, he discovered the husband's approach was simply inserting himself and doing nothing more. The professor suggested he try moving back and forth next time. The couple returned only once more to enthusiastically say, "Thank you," and didn't require further sessions. I'm an RN and have seen plenty of wild cases, but one particularly stands out. I was admitting a man to the hospital, can't recall the exact reason, but he was about 400 pounds, had diabetes, heart problems, and the works. While I was at the computer asking admission questions, surrounded by his 10 family members packed into the room, he suddenly complained about being extremely thirsty. He demanded a drink immediately. I called the nursing assistant to bring him some ice water, but as soon as I said the words, his entire family shouted, "No! No water! He's allergic to water!" Well, that was going to be an issue. Apparently, the man had consumed nothing but Sprite and sweet tea for years because of this supposed water allergy. To top it off, his wife then asked, "Where are we all going to sleep?" The whole family of 10 had planned to stay at the hospital with him. You can't make this stuff up. During surgery, my fellow resident accidentally bumped heads with the surgeon. Laughing it off, he said, "Ah, Dr. Jones, a meeting of the minds." The surgeon muttered under his breath, "Yes." And I felt so alone. My patient shared both good news and bad news with me. "The medication for my earache worked," she said happily. "And what's the bad news?" I asked. "It tasted terrible," she replied. Since she was feeling better, I couldn't bring myself to explain that it was called eardrops for a reason. "Here you go," said the nurse, handing a urine specimen container to the patient. "The restroom is right over there." A few minutes later, the patient returned from the bathroom. Handing back the empty container, he said, "Thanks, but there was a toilet in there, so I didn't need this after all."